Yo, what's going on, everybody? It's Francisco Kixtahara, and this is my first episode of getting back into streaming for the year since leaving for CES last weekend. Pretty cool event. I was sent there for work to speak on behalf of an esports panel, speaking specifically towards the impact that esports has on education, which is really cool. And then the other parts were meeting with a couple cool brands like Nikon, Asus, JLab, and stuff like that. So I want to give a shout out to Blacklight and the homie Ben for sending me out for that chat. It was my first time in Vegas, and definitely a really cool experience. Way too quick. I wish I was able to spend more time there, but I was able to connect with some really cool brands to speak on behalf of my company, to kind of shed some light onto esports and education. Met with an old friend, Justin Silly. He's a retired Call of Duty pro and now an educator and working on his education as well. So shout outs to Silly. And funny enough, I got a chance to go to what was it? Pinkies by Vanderpump. So anyone that knows Housewives and Vanderpump Rules and all that other types of stuff, Lisa Vanderpump, entrepreneur, and she has a whole bunch of different restaurants all over the world. And it's a guilty pleasure that my wife and I would watch sometimes. And funny enough, when we were sitting at the bar, the bartender said, "Hey, did you get a chance to see Lisa?" I'm like, "What are you talking about?" And like, "Lisa Vanderpump is here." And that was kind of crazy because, with someone who has international restaurants and properties, bars all over the world, you never think that, the owner is going to be there, like, like a Ramsey, type of restaurant. Like, what are the chances that you're going to actually see Gordon Ramsay at one of his restaurants, right? But sure enough, Lisa Vanderpump was there. And I was able to take a quick picture with her, which was kind of cool. And yeah, but CES was a good time, and have just been full swing into work. So haven't been able to get more content out. But while I was away, I did do a couple of pre-recorded streams. I did the Dr. Wily by Funko Pop. I did the Mega Man figure by Jada Toys, and then I also unboxed the my PlayStation Optimus, and I finally actually got it into a nice clean looking transformation. It was pretty much all this inside interior piece over here. This shell is housing, all the legs and arms of Optimus and stuff like that. So I just needed to compress them a little bit more, but it looks pretty sick. When you take a look at it again, there you can open up the disc bay and then put a disc inside. It comes with this tiny little PlayStation controller or memory card that you can see, which is clearly out of focus, and then this tiny little controller as well. But I do have a PS one controller hanging up behind me as well. But this is kind of some of the stuff that we were unboxing. And on the note of gaming, clearly, I am in one of my past uniforms when I was a Nintendo rep. Doing some of their marketing. For people that don't know, I worked for their agency of record for 6 years, like 2006 to 2012, launching the first program that I was on was DS, which is on the Nintendo DS. We went around guerrilla marketing with dollies and life-size Tetris pieces, and just got people to kind of mess around with those and play the Tetris game, via co-op and online. The other thing that we did is launch the Nintendo Wii. So I was part of the Nintendo Wii launch campaign, which was really cool. I was one of the first players to play The Legend of Zelda: Twilight Princess on the Wii in Canada, which is a really crazy experience. Um, for me, I think it was funny because when the trainer, the rep, kind of like brought up the demo, he's trying to go over all the controls on how to sort of walk, through the Zelda demo. But being the nerd that I am, I actually was following a lot of the GameSpot, IGN, and other types of demo reels that they kind of had, gameplay uploads that they had. So I literally mapped and memorized like the exact same um, the demo, since it was out for about 4 to 6 months even prior to me getting my hands on the Wii remote and nunchuck. And so he's like, the first thing you want to do is, and as he was saying that, I was already like moving and like strafing, like with the arrow, like picking off like the arrow, bokoblins that are in the background. He's like, it looks like you know what you're doing. I'm like, yeah, don't worry, I got this. So shout out to Jason. I ended up seeing him as well. Jason is one of their, I think he's a tester, one of the product guys that kind of goes around. I've seen him at plenty of events. The last one that I saw him at was actually the Nintendo Switch preview event, which was hosted in, I'm gonna like to say it was the CNE, very similar to the Nintendo Switch 2 launch event that's going to be happening in Toronto this April. I actually got my um, draw or ticket, I guess, in the draw to participate in that event. So really looking forward to that. It'll be, I believe, on the 25th of April. I applied for the first slot, which is on the Friday afternoon. So hopefully, again, I can bring my DJI Osmo 3 Pocket 3 just to kind of do some blogging and get some cool content captured to share back on the stream with my first impressions. But the whole point of this stream was to specifically break down the IGN 30-point detail video that they shared recently, and just kind of give my impressions as a former Nintendo rep and trainer, just to kind of think to show my impressions of what this is going to be like. So really excited for this one, and I hope you're excited to just tune in for the ride. If you're in the chat, say what's up so I know that you're here. The other thing is, if you have any questions in regards to what you're seeing on screen in real time, then go ahead and please do stop me, make comments, all this other types of stuff. But I'm pretty much going to go through this 30 detailed breakdown and share my thoughts and opinions on what I think about it here. So without further ado, let's get to it. So I think they're spot on right away. Unsuspecting name, and the size and form factor, everything looks pretty similar to what the first generation of the Switch is, and they go into a lot of really cool details, and really excited to kind of share those things. At first glance, I do like the fact that they kind of blended, the first generation of Switch, where it came in the gray and then the neon blue and red. But I like the fact that it is more low profile in the sense that it looks more like the original Wii U gamepad, which is actually here. So that looks kind of similar, or the gray, the original gray Switch. Even think going all the way back to Game Gear, PSP, and stuff like that, and then now even more recently with devices like the Steam Deck. So I think that they're looking definitely for a more sleek kind of angle, but I do like the slight little color pops on the Joy Cons that you can see on the inside rails, and then also on the joysticks here. But let's keep getting into it. So they say 15% bigger, and I'm curious because I have my Switch here, and actually, let me pull this up real quick. They say 15% bigger, so this is the Switch, and then this is the Nintendo Wii U gamepad. So you could see, it is drastically bigger, and you do need your Wii U console to actually plug, this to run this. And you could see the similarities that, both of these kind of carry. But if they're saying that it's 15% bigger, then it's definitely going to be, not as big and blocky as the gamepad, but will certainly be a scaled up, version of the Switch console that we see here. But just wanted to bring this up, since I do have it handy. My wife and I actually just unboxed it, or took it out of storage, just because we wanted to play, some other co-op games. So we started playing Super Mario Brothers U, We Fit U, and a whole bunch of other types of stuff. Instead of buying Super Mario Wonder and some of the other games, I decided just to kind of, unbox and unpack, some of the old hardware that we have, and still have a good time doing it. All right, let's get back to the video. So these are the hot pink, or I guess like neon pink and neon yellow, more Splatoon style Joy Cons. These aren't. This isn't the standard one that came with the original piece. So that's what they're talking about in regards to having some of that color pop over there. One thing that I want to go back to really quick is this railing, or like I guess like that protruding kind of connector over there. I am a little weary of it. I know, you know, it looks like it slides in pretty cleanly, but things like that, where you have a pin connector, like they are prone to snapping. So I'm curious to know what the durability of this would be, especially the fact that it's magnetic, which they'll probably get into a little bit further. Just like, how safe, is it as, one piece, whereas, with this switch here, you could actually take it off the rails and, it actually slides in. So there's almost no way that you can like pull the Joy-Con off. So very interesting design choice, but I'm sure that it's been tested to some degree. But very interesting to kind of think about what the durability of that magnetic system as well as this connecting port will do. Yes. So as we were talking about a little bit earlier, as much as it does have that black, or they're calling it gray, exterior to kind of give it that Steam Deck kind of cleaner look, those undertones of having, the red or pink and blue underneath the joystick and on the interior rail, is a really kind of cool touch. It also helps, of course, distinguish between player one and player two. Hardcore gamers and just Switch fans altogether are definitely going to be able to tell the difference between the two. But I would say that for the more casual player, be it a parent, be it a child, you probably won't know, if you're player one or player two until you even get a little bit closer to see where those four LEDs are on the interior rail there. But I do like that addition of the color pop. So let's talk about. No, I think we went over everything there. I'm going to pause after every point and then just kind of add a little anecdote. But I think instead of kind of interrupting, each bullet, we'll go ahead and pause once we get into the next one. So let's go into point four. So we talked about that on the previous point. Especially the way that the animation is sort of working. They are clicking in. Is no rail system that we just talked about with the Nintendo Switch console over here. Like you're not seeing a male female like port like sliding system over here. So magnets for sure. I did again highlight though that one interior protruding pin connector is, like I said, that to me is from a tech perspective, just in general, wear and tear because it's so exposed there. Um, and especially if kids, I'm not sure again what the magnet, like how strong the magnet is and what the kind of use would be like, but anyone who's potentially flexing it either forward or back, there may be additional wear and tear on that, but we'll see as the console is released. So this, I know I just contradicted myself and I said that, I'm not gonna interrupt it as it's happening, but I'm guessing that that third trigger, because you have your Z trigger on the skinny one on the front, the ZR trigger, which is that larger one that's kind of in the middle there, and then the one on the very back is kind of seemingly the replacement to this little pin connector over here, which right now, again, it's locked into the rail. But if I press on that, then I can slide and release that. So again, it looks like they just kind of went over how, hitting that trigger on the outside will hit a piston on the inside and poke the interior system and then eject it in some type of way. So I know there's mixed feelings about having the Joy Cons, offset, especially with the stick design. But I think that it's mainly for when you have them disconnected. I know that they're not 100%, identical, but the main thing is, they did want a rounded edge for sure, and a flat top to give you that orientation of having the stick on the left and then the one on the right. The one thing that is obviously a little bit weird is the fact that regardless of the one that you use, like this one, you could see that the joystick is nicely there on the left side, but then the face buttons are in the center, which is kind of awkward. Same is true now with the joystick on the center, and then having the face buttons off to the right. So there's no perfect solution, but at the end of the day, it still gives you, pretty much more or less the same layout. It's just a little awkward in regards to how it's sort of laid out. But as I mentioned, like that is just the reason why they kind of, laid them out that way so that, you could put them flush on their side and they could act as independent controls. So there is no explanation to what that is right now, and you can see how on the home button it actually isn't there on the bottom underneath home. You can see, but some speculation because the Steam Deck and I believe the ROG Ally have like a trackpad on the right, then that may be what they're going for. And one thing you could see right away right now, especially on this screen, is how much bigger the trigger buttons are. So you could see that ZL, is it ZL or SL and SR triggers that are on the top of the controller. You can see how much wider they are on the back of the Joy-Con, the new Joy-Con here. And that's true. I'm not sure, or there is an attachment, but I'm not sure how it works. I know that with the original Joy Cons, there is that black additional rail piece, which does have the trigger extensions. Regardless, like using these is nearly impossible, and then having the additional grip does help slightly. But for people with big hands, pretty much all adults, like it's a pretty hard thing to use. So I'm curious to know how the new Joy-Con feels in hand with and without the grip. So while we talk about that and I guess like how this sort of works out, I know one of the biggest things in general with not just Switch controllers but modern Pro controllers in general are the drift issues that people experienced over the years. And it's not exclusive to Nintendo, but I think especially because they are smaller, low profile sticks, they are more prone to that type of defect. The majority of companies have recently moved over to what they call Hall effect sticks, which are I believe they work magnetically, so there's no direct contact on the joystick module and where that sort of fits in. So I haven't had any issues specifically with any of my Hall effect joysticks from a drift perspective, and I'm speaking directly towards the 8-bit-do USB the Ultimate Pro controller and then the Ultimate C controller. But the issue that I had is with durability. So not specifically, again, drift. The controllers are not drifting, but there is something wrong with at least them being loose. Now I don't know if it's because of my playstyle, especially playing, Smash Brothers competitively when you're a little bit more, hard on the controller. So that may just be like a use case scenario when it comes down to competitive play and how many hours you're actually putting into it. But I'm really curious to know if these are Hall Effect sticks or not. The good thing though is that I did hear from one of my close friends, Zach, that he's still experiencing drift issues with his first generation Switch for him and his kids. But Nintendo did accept his Joy Cons to be sent in for free and repaired for free. So that's definitely something that people should be looking into if you haven't if you have controllers that are experiencing those issues, instead of purchasing them, check out Nintendo support and see if you can get them swapped out. You'd save a couple bucks there, and especially as we move away from the Nintendo Switch and towards the Switch 2, then you certainly want to probably get these repaired sooner than later, because that's probably going to be a discontinued service once later as the new console is released. So what they're saying is the NFC sensor. So on this sensor over here, the one with the home button, there is an NFC sensor on the center. There also is an NFC sensor on the Nintendo Switch Pro controller. So either of these can interact with Amiibo. And what they're saying is that that has not been confirmed. And exactly on your screen over there, you can see the IR sensor on the bottom. I personally haven't used it for any of the games that I play, but I know that the technology exists and it's clearly over there, but there is no window, on the bottom of the new controller. That's exactly what we talked about earlier here. SL and SR triggers, super, super tiny on the original Joy-Con. And again, you can slide on that additional rail piece to get, that fatter trigger, but still any adult I feel has definitely struggled with that. So it's interesting to see that, it's or good to see rather that the triggers have increased in size, but still curious to know, about any types of adapters, or adjustments to allow that to happen. I know that at the end of the day, I'm likely still going to be gravitating towards the Switch Pro controller, and I honestly hope that they don't. I don't think they need to reinvent the Pro controller. I think that they should just make the Switch to fully backwards compatible with the existing Nintendo Switch Pro controller. Reason being, this is probably one of the most comfortable and best-selling controllers ever. Probably one of the hottest ones, especially even for PC use. And it resembles the grip of an Xbox 360 or Xbox Series controller, and they haven't really changed, since Xbox 360. They have slightly, and there is the elite version of those controllers, but they haven't changed it. Um, so I would say that why take away from the already an incredible controller with the Pro controller and release a new one. I think that they would be wise to keep support for the existing Pro controller, Switch Pro controller, going. Mhm. So that would be the exact same technology that existed on the Nintendo Wii remotes. You can also see it here near that sync button right there. And then you also see it at the bottom of the Pro controllers right over here. So likely, honestly, the exact same LED interface, technology, just to kind of, identify, which player you are, 1 through 8, or 1 through 4 rather. So pretty much the same, except for the addition. Again, the LED slot was moved up to the front, which is better just from a user perspective. But that sync button is pretty much in the exact same place. And then you could see that there's that female port of the proprietary connector there. I did, I can't stress it enough. I do. That is probably one of my biggest fears, or like things that I kind of worry about, especially dust and debris, kind of like accumulating over time. So making sure that those are clean. But let's get into that sensor that they're talking about on the top there. That looks like two lenses. So again, they took away the IR sensor on the bottom here, but when they're talking about the sensor for the mouse, this is what they're talking about here. That guy right there, and it does look super similar, right? If you look at them side by side now, especially seeing it here, it does look like a laser sensor. So really interesting to see, and I know that the trailer does kind of show it in a mouse orientation. I'm pretty sure they're going to cover it here as well. Mhm. So interestingly, the way that they have the Joy-Con, if it is going to be used like a mouse this way, and you think about how, a mouse, functions, this way, then it would be interesting for them to have it function that way because technically, at least the red Joy-Con over there, you can get a grip the of the joystick and the buttons. So you still get kind of functionality even if you are using it like a mouse, whether I don't know if you compare it to a screen and use this to like scroll page up, page down, go backwards and forwards on screens, or even set macros to the face buttons. So that would be pretty interesting if they decide to do that. One thing that I would say that would be an improvement though is because of the size and the Joy-Con being so slender, if there was a dock or like a mouse attachment where you can literally like slot in, and effectively have, the mouse kind of like or the Joy-Con kind of on the side, that I think would probably be a lot better, especially from an ergonomic perspective. You could see that I have the Logi MX Master 2. Shout out to Logitech for hooking me up with this. But yeah, like I love this large ergonomic grip, the thumb rest, the ability to have back and forth buttons and scroll wheel on the interior. So I would say that it would be wise for either Nintendo or an aftermarket company to jump on that trend there. So that's again originally what came in with the Switch as that black attachment that goes over here. That ultimately it provides better grip. It provides the security of the wrist strap, but the main and primary function is again tiny triggers, SL and SR triggers on the inside here. Anyone larger than a child is has to be kind of holding it like this, and it looks pretty ridiculous, even looking at it on camera right now. So when you add that additional rounded piece, they do have a larger trigger button for you to use. So it's nice and interesting to see what the new Joy-Con grip slash wrist straps will do in future, and what other additional attachments come out in the future as well. So when it comes down to screen size in general, this is still my Gen 1 Switch that I have here. I've repaired it a couple times because why buy a new one when I could just repair it? First repair that I did was a fan repair, and the fan I got on Amazon for I think $17, and I bought like a screw, like a laptop repair set for another like $15, so $30. And I went in and I repaired the fan because it sounded like this thing was going to take off on me. The other thing that I did was I actually went through and did a battery replacement. So one of the things about either phones, laptops, and to any type of panel, tablet technology like this, they are prone, to battery swelling. And sure enough, after how long has it been? 7 years, I guess, since the Switch came out, almost 7 years. I did see the bubbling, on the back that was, causing that expansion on the back over here. So I went through again, ordered a battery for $12 or something like that on Amazon, opened this guy up, and then installed that there. So two repairs, maybe costing me a total of $60 and maybe two hours, of repair time. Definitely something that I encourage people to do is learn how to tinker and adjust. And even if you're not comfortable with that, I just use YouTube and for and articles. There are console repair services, third party, and even again, Nintendo customer service is seemingly still very reliable. I just mentioned that a friend sent in some Joy Cons for free and got his Joy Cons repaired for free. So again, if you need to have any of your controllers checked, repaired, systems repaired, and stuff like that, I do highly suggest taking care of that before the Switch 2 comes out. Because as we get further into that new console life cycle, support for the older consoles definitely goes away. So, definitely check out Nintendo support if you have any drift or console issues at all. Just to compare, you have your exact. Can I do it like this? Like this? There you go. So, pretty much there is the exact interface that you can see there. That is a huge plus, because anyone who has a Switch and wants to make the upgrade is great, to be able to kind of bring them over. The caveat is that it did say that it's not everything is fully backwards compatible. I'm curious to know why that is. It may be, whether or not they removed the NFC functionality, which they talked about earlier. It may also because they removed the IR sensor. So pretty much any technology that existed or exists currently on Switch that isn't confirmed on the Switch 2, I believe would be the titles that would suffer from not having backwards compatibility. But otherwise, I hope that that works out. So that is pretty much on this kind of like in between this area over here. The vent is kind of moved over, but there is again some type of USB-C. If we want to go right center, it would technically be right here. So the vent is, if you move that vent over, the USB-C port would be over here. So what they're saying is both of the consoles have the USB-C connector on the bottom, which you can use to charge your system, dock the system, what have you. But it is curious, like what would the top one be for, and whether it's adding additional peripherals like a camera or an additional battery pack or some type of grip extension, for maybe there's a pro grip where you can take this out and mount it on something more similar to a ROG Ally style like grip or Steam Deck style grip. That would be interesting, but I'm not complaining. The fact that it has two USB-C ports opens up a lot of options for sure. Right. Now I don't know about that. Like they're saying, link cable style to connect the consoles. For Pokemon, especially for trading Pokemon, I don't think that um, like the reliability from Bluetooth or and Wi-Fi is too crazy there in regards to like small file transfer. It would be cool though if you are able to use a link cable more specifically for head to head. Like if you wanted to play Mario Kart or Smash or other games like that, I think would be a useful tool. But something as minor as like, hey, you could do a file transfer. Like I don't think that that I wouldn't want to be taking out a cable just to transfer a Pokemon. Like, the way that we send instant messages through our smartphones and airdrop stuff with iPhones, like I would say that I'd prefer the wireless route from a convenience perspective and only want to be wired down for a competitive perspective experience. So absolute trash. This first gen kickstand that they gave us. Like what is that? Like that like what was this supposed to do? How did they think that that was, satisfactory to use? So 100%, I know that that was already addressed on the Switch OLED, where pretty much the entire backing piece, or half the backing piece kind of unfolds to give you a more stable and steady, you know, kickstand. I like the fact that, they kinda went a little bit more low pro with the U-shaped kickstand on the Switch too, but I see what they're talking about. It is a little flimsy, and you could see, how that could potentially break. I would have liked to see probably the OLED style. Also, when I worked with Microsoft, Canada, the Switch, or not the Switch rather, but the Surface, it had, only 1 or 2 angles on the first gen of the Surface, and then eventually moved over to the full hinge, like flap like the OLED has. So curious to see, or interesting to see that, they went with a more low profile design on this, because from a durability perspective, having, that one single panel flip out, is would have more structural integrity seemingly, than this one here, which has like just those smaller, skinnier contact points on each of the sides there. But let's see how it holds up over time. It looks just as uncomfortable as the Joy-Con grip now. I don't know anyone who actually uses that. Like, honestly, go out and get a pro controller. Like, everyone needs a pro controller. Yo, what's going on, Fear and Hunger? Thanks for joining. We're doing a detailed or a reaction on IGN's 30 details for Switch 2. I used to work for Nintendo's marketing team, agency of record, and I launched the Nintendo Wii all the way to 3DS from 2006 to 2012. So just kind of talking about, this over here, like, but I, honestly, I guess for parents that are very casual players and their kids, that is the only person who's going to be caught dead with that grip. I don't know, like, even though I understand, like, the ergonomic side of being able to have more of a grip makes sense to use that, the Joy-Con grip. However, the reason why you need a pro controller, regardless of, the fact that you can get that grip, is literally the sticks. Like, look at the comparison on the sticks, right? And then also look at the comparison on, like, the face buttons, like the size and like just the quality of each. The thing is, especially as a competitive Smash player, like Joy-Cons are not made for that type of play, and you will beat the hell out of the buttons where they're going to get squishy and not have any bounce back, and then that and other things like, again, initiating, building up, drift over time. So if you are hardier controllers, if you play more competitive games, invest in a pro controller versus destroying your Joy Cons. That's just going to be, and it doesn't need to be the official Nintendo Switch Pro controller. That is the Nintendo Switch Pro controller is probably one of my favorite, along with the 8BitDo Ultimate Bluetooth controller. But there's other ones out there like by PowerA, PDP, and stuff like that, where you can get for like, 15 to $50 depending on how much you want to pay. But get a Pro controller if you play a lot. Fear and Hunger says the no Nintendo Switch is kind of weird. I don't think it's kind of weird. I think it's very much the same, or like very similar rather to the current Nintendo Switch. But I think that we won't know until we actually, get it out and we actually see the game titles that are going to be released. The only thing that they've really shown on these demos is Mario Kart, which makes total sense. But I went to the Nintendo Switch event when it first came out in 2017, and I was happily surprised to to be able to play with the console. And I also put in a submission for the draw. There's an event in Toronto in April to go to that launch event as well. I'm just waiting to see. I think at the end of the month they're going to start pulling the names. So I'm hoping to be, surprised with it as well. But um, I think I wouldn't say weird is the word. I think it's very much safe. I think safe is the best way that I would explain the Nintendo Switch 2, where it's literally increased screen, increased controller, size, and you know, seemingly a lot of the same. But it's one of those things too. Like if it ain't broke, why fix it? The analogy a lot of people have been going with the Nintendo Switch 2 is that, and even with the naming convention, they're just kind of going with the way that iPhone is just iPhone and then whatever the number is, or the Samsung S whatever the number is. So I think that if they do plan on, keeping this naming convention, and things kind of the same, then sure. But what I will say is like I hope this isn't the only console that Nintendo makes. I hope that they actually do make a dedicated home console because I would prefer the Nintendo Switch to be the replacement for Game Boy, DS, you know, all the handhelds, that we've had so far, and for them to eventually build a dedicated system that doesn't have the portable functionality because between the two, at this point, I'll say straight up, I don't know if I'm gonna be a day one purchaser because I haven't seen the game library yet, and I don't wanna just get the system to get the system to have it. I wanna get the system because there's games that are already out. So, um, if there is, a dedicated home console coming, I would love that, but that would be my dream is for Switch to kinda reclaim the portable spot, and then for them to dedicate even something small like the Xbox Series S would be good to me. But we'll see what happens. So one thing interesting that I know that I've seen on a lot of memes and stuff out there is this is the 30-point breakdown, and they brought up Mario Kart as the 24th point, and they're probably going to cover it here where the line, like the finish line or starting line, has 24 spots. If they increase to 24 spots, that's going to be crazy. Um, so we'll see how that goes. But I just kind of wanted to call that out there that this is point number 24, and let's see what they say. There you go. So you can see that starting line, 24 racers. So the most amount of racers that Mario Kart has ever had. Still not close to something like F Zero, RIP. But still, I think that this is a great title. Mario Kart 8 and Deluxe are awesome games as well. So looks like Mario Kart will be a confirmed launch title. I believe Mario Kart 8 Deluxe came out, 3 or 4 months after the Switch launched with Tears of the Kingdom, or not Tears of the Kingdom, Breath of the Wild. But it looks like Mario Kart will be the launch title um, for the Switch 2, seemingly because this is the only game that we've seen gameplay of, or at least like some type of like placement on here. So very very interesting and curious to see how this sort of plays out. They're only showing like 9 characters, maybe 10 characters, and I believe that the current Mario Kart supports up to 12. Um, so increasing that player base to 24 is going to be crazy hectic, and I'm very curious to know, not a lot of people do this, but you can actually LAN together multiple TVs and switches to play a larger Mario Kart experience versus doing it online. So I'm curious to know if there's additional functionality that will exist like that as well. This is what we were talking about earlier. Where is it? That slide in there in the center. Certain Nintendo Switch games may not be supported or fully supported on or fully compatible with Nintendo Switch 2. Talked about this earlier. There's no more IR sensor. There has been no confirmation for NFC. So those are the titles. Look for anything that does have those functionality. I think that there's very few that actually make use of the IR sensor, so I wouldn't be worried about that. But from an NFC perspective, that is where you may worry about it. However, like I said, if they provide full backwards compatibility to the Nintendo Switch Pro controller, there is an NFC reader over here, so that may be the solution, that they're thinking about, or the direction that they provide. Hey, if you have a Switch 2, if you need an NFC sensor, pick up, the Pro controller, and we'll see where that goes. Hmm. Hmm. That was yesterday. All right, let's go back. So I completely forgot about this Ring Fit Trainer, Ring Fit Adventure rather, where you do need to slot in the Joy Cons onto the ring itself and then onto a leg attachment that it has. So that's certainly something that I completely forgot in regards to not being backwards compatible. 2025, there is no official release date, so interesting to hear when it drops. My thought is that it's going to drop sometime in Q3. So Q3 would be July through October, I believe. Is it October or July through September rather? Because dropping it near the holiday would make a lot more sense. If they do a summer release, like a Q2, Q3, that could be something as well. But we'll see how that goes. For those that don't know, the Switch One, I believe the anniversary is coming up this March. I think it's the 7th or 8th year anniversary. So a lot of people even like they can't even fathom the fact that the system has been out so long, but it has been out for a while. Gina Baby's asking when will it be released? Switch 3? You mean Switch 2? So Switch 2, it only says 2025, and then a Nintendo Direct is coming on April 2nd, 2025. So in less than 3 months, this will be happening. And then finally, what they mentioned is the Nintendo Switch experience. So if you're on my stream earlier, I did mention that I was able to put my name in the draw. So there's a Toronto event happening on April 25th, and they have different slots on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. The the site yesterday was absolutely bonkers, and the lag, was real, and it was crashing like crazy. I was literally on refresh, getting error after error, but somehow I ended up getting my name into the draw for the ticket piece there. Let's actually go and pull that up, just because I could remove this and bring this guy into. Let's see. Presents, share, and this one. I think it's here. There we go. So this is the event that I was talking about over here, where let's bring this up full screen. Yeah, if you go to Nintendo.com, click on events, or I think it's Nintendo.experience. Is it? Let me just double check one more time. Yeah, you got to go to the Nintendo website just to get the information that's relevant to you. But I live in Toronto, so this is going to be where they're hosting, their launch event here at the CNE. Um, the Nintendo Switch launch experience. So again, go ahead and it says go ahead and click on that. So I went through all of this yesterday. You go ahead and register. You do need a Nintendo account to sign in, so it's not just like anyone can kind of go in. So anyone who's a current Switch owner or has had a Nintendo account since the DS or Wii and stuff like that should be able to sign in. But definitely, once you get to the website, click on the top right over here and hit this login screen, and then get yourself signed in, and then go ahead and click on any of these to try and get a spot. So you can see here, since I'm not signed in, I need to create an account to register. But I was literally clicking on any get ticket button that I could, and it just kept crashing. So that was probably because I did it right at 3 p.m. Eastern yesterday when they opened this up. But wanted to share, like if there is an event near you, then certainly go and take a look. I'm trying to see what other regions that they mentioned over here. There you go. So a full list of the Nintendo Tour is listed here on the bottom. So if you're interested in trying the Nintendo Switch, in April or in May, and it looks like all the way to June that it's going there into Korea, go to the Nintendo website, look for the events and Nintendo Switch 2 Experience Tour, and that's where you can get your hands on the console for the first time. Speaking as a past Nintendo rep, like this is actually what my job used to be from 2006 to 2012. I would go to different convention centers, retailers like Best Buy and GameStop, um, Walmart and stuff like that. And it was my responsibility and my team to, as a field rep, I was there to kind of get, the console and the games into the controllers and into the consumer's hands. Later on, as a field manager or team lead, I would have to help kind of secure the venue, do the site checks to make sure that there was enough square footage, the power drops, and everything that we needed for the actual venue. And then from a logistics perspective, ordering and sending all the consoles, all the games and everything there, going to storage, picking out the inventory, bringing that on site, and effectively building a booth or some type of experience, for people to be able to play the latest and greatest Nintendo titles. So that's what I expect when I go to this event, and I'm really excited to hopefully get my hands on the draw. Angel Island says, "I'll wait for the Switch 2 Pro Max Slim Deluxe." Yes, yes, let's go. Exactly that. On that, I was saying earlier that, like I'm like as much as I love the Switch because I still play, Smash regularly and platforming games and stuff like that. Um, I want a dedicated. I was saying earlier, I want a dedicated system. Um, I want a dedicated console, home console, where I don't need to have that portable element. I don't mind the Switch or the Switch 2, but I would prefer that the Switch and the Switch 2 replace that handheld experience of, the Game Boy, the Game Boy Color, the Game Boy Advance, the SP, the DS Lite, DSi, the DS XL, the 3DS, the 3DS XL, the new 3DS XL, right? So I would love for this to replace that line, and I would love a dedicated home console because I don't really play things portably, and if I do, then I would rather just kind of have my Switch there on the side. And the reason why I say that is because of the hardware limitation, two, the I guess the software limitations and stuff like that as well. And when I say hardware limitations, it's the power, the battery life. There's a whole bunch of things that kind of go with that. So I would love, for a dedicated home and dedicated portable console, but it seemingly that may not be the case anymore. But whatever, I could wish for whatever I want. Um, the other thing, we have a question here from Fear and Hunger says, "How much do you think the new Nintendo Switch is going to be?" I I think the Canadian retail was 379 or so, or 399. I don't see Nintendo pricing it over that $400 price point Canadian. US 300 to 350 maybe is where I see it, because Nintendo is usually pretty consistent in regards to like how they kind of move the price point along. So it would be very smart for them to keep it within that 300 USD, 400 Canadian price point. Anything more than that, especially because it is seemingly only a slight upgrade in hardware, I think would be too much of an ask. So I hope, that they keep it affordable, like that. Um, and then Angel actually saying, I agree with you completely. I've been waiting for a Nintendo home console release. I grew up on Nintendo home console. I always had, a handheld console, and I think that that's one thing that they need to realize again is that, sure, like they do want to be. I think the thing is that they're thinking is that like they kind of bowed out a little bit in the sense that PS5 and Xbox are probably and PC are the dedicated home consoles, so they want to play in this place. But I would love, love a home console. I'm not even saying it needs to compete with Xbox and PlayStation directly, but I just want the convenience of a reliable Nintendo console running at 60 FPS, no frame drops, when you're playing hardcore, competitive games or things that have way too much animation and it starts to kind of slow down. That's the biggest thing. I think that, if they could honestly hit home console 60 FPS, with you know no stutter, that's like I'm setting the bar low. Like they don't need to keep up with PS5 and Xbox, at all. But I hope that there's something that they do with that. And maybe, with the fact that it has two USB-C ports now, is there going to be an additional dock, you know what I mean? Like attachment or something that has like I don't know, like an external GPU, that can slot on the top, right? Like, because if you go back, let me pull this up again. Actually, I pull up. Here we go. Now let's look at this. So we reject. How do we just find a Nintendo Switch? All right, let's just pull. Oh, come on now. All right, bad example. Let me see if I can pull up the other window here. Where's my YouTube? Remove, stop screen, present, share screen, window. Let's go to this one, share, and get rid of this. Oops. Here we go. Bring this guy up again. All right. Where is the dock? Here we go. So one, this is the new top USB-C dock or USB-C port, right? So there's two USB-C ports now. The one on the bottom that we already have over here is that one, right? So that goes into the dock and charger. This one that we're seeing right now is on the top. Now, if we look at the dock, which is very similar um, to the existing Switch, technically you can dock on the console. The top USB-C is exposed, so maybe there will be like an external GPU, like the way that Sega had, 32X and Sega CD and stuff like that. Who knows? Almost every Nintendo console since the NES has ports on the bottom where there's supposed to be attachments. On the NES, Super NES, like had a front loading disk drive. The N64 had the 64DD disk drive for expansions. The GameCube had 3 expansion ports for the Game Boy adapter, for the LAN adapter, and something else that I can't remember. So, expansion ports and especially the fact that it's USB-C, you could potentially, see some type of additional attachments over there. We have another comment from Angel here. Honestly, I would love for Sega to come back with Console Wars and so many good IPs, and they have Atlas. Imagine it would be exclusive to a hypothetical Sega console with all the Persona games. That would be cool, but I think they are too far gone now, where they conceded. They lost the console wars, and the fact that Sega titles are on all pretty much every platform now, it doesn't make sense for them to kind of have a proprietary system. I know that they do create, the small systems like the classic, systems and stuff like that, like the PlayStation, the NES, SNES, and stuff like that. So I know you would love it. I wouldn't hold my breath. But no, I hear you. I hear you for sure when it comes down to Sega making a comeback. I actually one of my first consoles was Sega because the first console that I got as a kid was actually a NES, hand me down from my uncle. But the first console that I was gifted as my first console was a Sega, with Sonic, of course, from my uncle Rick, which was awesome. And Sega, like the control was a little janky with like only having 3 buttons. It did have one more than the NES controller, but until they actually got into the 6 button layout and stuff like that, that's when things got really cool. But like Sega definitely changed the game when they were out there, and I love the old ad campaign where they go, Sega does what Nintendo don't. So that was kind of funny here. Angel's asking, am I Filipino? Yes, I am Filipino. Born and raised in Canada, but both my parents are from the Philippines. They met me here in Canada, had me here, my sister as well, here in Canada. So yeah, musta ka? Hey, mabute. Thank you, man. Thank you, thank you. But that's pretty much my reactions, my initial thoughts. I think the other thing I wanted to share in regards to a missed opportunity that a lot of people are talking about online is like they missed the boat when it came down to like they should have called it the Super Nintendo Switch, which I think is would have been really clever. It would have been a really cool callback as well, to the original way that they had a naming convention, for the NES and the SNES. Um, and I'm kind of torn when it comes down to Switch 2 and that naming convention, and I have a couple reasons for that. Is the con to me is this was an absolute failure from a marketing perspective and sales perspective, just in general. Had awesome games that nobody played that ended up getting ported over to the Switch later. A lot of people thought that the gamepad was just an additional peripheral that you could link to your Wii. A lot of people thought this was maybe even a handheld console, what the Switch is right now. But specifically the fact that they called it the Wii U, right? No one even knew what a Wii was, and then you're calling it a Wii U. It's like what's going on? Like it's kind of like trying to teach someone a foreign language. So I think um that was like one of the biggest marketing failures I would say that they had, from a product perspective. So I have my concerns when it comes down to the Nintendo Switch 2, because people are going to maybe think, well, what's the difference between, the my existing console and the new console? And that's kind of where it stops. Where the pro is, and where I think they could be moving in a good direction, is we talked about this earlier. The Nintendo Switch, or sorry, the iPhone, for example, PlayStation, PS1, PS2, PS3, PS4, PS5, Xbox is all over the place. iPhone, 3GS, 4S, all that other types of stuff, and they kept going in sequential order. So the fact that I understand that like they kept the name, and so I think maybe we and you were two just very unknown things that they just kind of brought together. But the fact that it's Switch and two, hopefully that moves it into a more simplified way for them to be able to update the console as as they release more as they sort of go on. But overall, I'm looking forward to it for sure. Angel says, "You're cool people, my brother. You have a new subscriber. I also do live streaming. Just finishing. Oh, nice. Thanks, man. Really appreciate you, hitting that subscribe. I am looking to, increase my follower base. It's been a while, and my channel has evolved quite a bit over the years. I started off doing, you know, uh, more gameplay when I had a really crappy capture card, and then also did some toy unboxings and stuff like that. And it kind of floated like back and forth between gaming and toys, which is still the constant theme that I want to stick with, but only I'm gonna say over the last few years, maybe like year or two, did I actually start to do a couple live streams here and there. And I do want to pick up that consistency. So this year is off to a good start. I think this is episode 6 or so, that I actually got a chance to do a live stream. I was away. I was mentioning on the beginning of the stream, I was at CES last week in Las Vegas for some work. So unfortunately, I wasn't able to do any live streaming last weekend because it got crazy. But I did upload a couple pre-recorded streams with the Jada Toys Mega Man, the Funko, not Funko Pop, but Funko Toys, Dr. Wily figure, and then I also unboxed and transformed my Transformers. This is actually an Optimus Prime, so it's not this. I know a lot of people when I bust this out, they're like, "Oh, you have a little PlayStation Classic." I'm like, "I do have the PlayStation Classic, but this is Optimus in a Transformer PlayStation, which is very cool. So if you're interested in gaming, if you're interested in cool Transformers and collectibles and stuff like that, then this is certainly the channel for you. So I wanted to share my thoughts in regards to the Nintendo Switch 2. Um, I am very excited for what's to come. I'm very excited for the Nintendo Switch 2 Direct. So that's going to be again on April 2nd. So mark your calendars for that. And then in April through June, there's going to be the Nintendo Experience Tour where you can get your hands on the Nintendo Switch 2 for your first impressions to kind of see how it actually performs in real time. The other uh, thing that I was going to say is my interest in purchasing the Nintendo Switch 2 is going to be 100% dependent on the gaming library that it releases with. When pretty much the last system or I guess when I got the Switch on day one, but that's because it had Breath of the Wild as a launch title. Having Zelda as a launch title, immediate system seller for me. Console before the that was the Wii U. So we talked about the Wii U. I didn't see any thing that I was really interested in picking up off the jump. So I actually waited for Super Smash Brothers Wii U to come out, which I think was maybe 2012, 2014 or something like that. So I waited until that game came out and then I picked up the system when, my game was on there. And then prior to that, Nintendo Wii, I was still working with the agency of record and doing Wii promotions. So I fell in love with Wii because I got to play Twilight Princess, Wii Sports, and a whole bunch of other games. So I picked that up as a day one. GameCube, it wasn't a day one, and I was too young. I got that gifted, by my parents. But I got that with I think Metroid Prime, which that was Game of the Year. So what can you what can you say about that? Um, but yeah, Angel saying you have a PlayStation Mini Classic. Yeah, so this is like yeah, PlayStation Classic and PlayStation Baby Classic or whatever else it is. So, but yeah, as even the controller. Let me see. This is a traditional PlayStation controller, USB style for the Classic, and then the Transformer actually comes with this adorable little controller as well. So cute. The only thing it's missing is the Sony logo there, but otherwise, pretty much OG Sony here. So yeah, if you're into games, if you're into collectibles and other types of geeky stuff, then this is definitely the channel for you. I'm trying to hit 1,000 subscribers by the end of the year. So that is one thing. And the other thing I'm trying to do is trying to hit as many streams as possible from a stream frequency perspective. Sometimes I don't have the time during the day, especially when work is getting hectic. I'm recently married. It's just in the new year. There's a lot of stuff going on. So they might not always be live, but I may be doing pre-recorded streams when I'm able to, likely on Saturdays or Sundays or sometime at night, and then releasing them throughout the week. So I could do more unboxing and more gameplay. So really appreciate everyone that's come through today. if you're interested in Switch and Switch 2, definitely, drop your comments and share that back. And we'll catch you on the next one. Angel, and who's our friend over here, Fear and Hunger. Thank you so much for joining. Gina, thanks so much for joining. Appreciate everyone's time, and really excited to see everyone on the next one. But until next time, we'll see you soon. Peace.